Hello, whippersnappers. Mike from the WCA, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock. This was a one of your puzzles. I think I put 3 on the blog for you. And this used to be a training position. It was from a real master game that was played a long time ago, but we used to use this as just, as I said, a training game for kids of all different levels, and we would tell them it's black to move. And in the puzzle on the blog, it said, can the white queen here take this bishop? Except black had castled queenside. So this is the position hopefully you see on the blog. And you have to ask as a student, why can't I just take that bishop? And in the training games that we used, most of the kids with white took it, and they ended up getting into trouble. So I would recommend you pause your video and ask the question, what could be wrong with taking the rook? Okay, let's pause the video. Okay, the problem is, if you take the bishop, and this happened, did I just say take the rook before? I may have. It's late in the day. I don't even know what hand I'm using here. If you take the bishop with the queen, you forgot that the black queen was pointing at g2. And that is an issue because in the training game we're going to look at, the d rook just hits the queen. And in this position, if you move her to safety, you know, somewhere along this line or here, you get mated in one move. So you're going to lose your queen for a rook and a bishop. And I think some of the kids who went for this trade thought, well, that's not really a big deal. It is only 1 point. But they forgot they were already down upon here as white. And furthermore, they don't have anything else in the game. So the one training example I want to give you, a kid named Daniel moved his queen back to g3. Okay, and he's playing a kid named Harry. So it's Harry with black against Daniel with white. And these kids are now both done with college. So these were WCA students from a long time ago. So here, black simply takes the queen. And how to take back? Well, Harry took back with his f-pawn. I guess his thinking was to open the rook with the idea of getting the rook maybe to the 7th rank. That looks like a really good square. There's some problems here, though. Nothing that white has is out. But there's also a problem for black. You're up, I think, 2 points of material now, but a lot of students would say, and these kids said it to us back then, well, what does that mean? How do I win? Well, one way to win games like this is say to yourself, am I fully developed? And the answer here is yes. Of course, you're going to improve this rook on h8, but it's not 100% clear where it's going to go. Maybe you can put it on e8. What I like about Daniel's move here is he realized, and he actually talked about this after the training session, that he felt these pawns here, in his opinion, those pawns were worth more than the 3 points. It's like this big 3-headed monster that's going to end up creeping up the board. So he said, you know what? I'm going to move my e-pawn to e5, but I have 2 ideas. One, I get this 3-headed creature moving further up the board. That's number 1. Number 2, do you notice that the queen now covers the f7 square? So it's a very clever move. It was a move designed to attack and defend at the same time. Okay, white kind of floundered around here, just bounced around, played bishop to d2 to get the bishop out, and Daniel's, okay, you didn't stop me from moving my powerhouse, and he just pushed e4. The bishop got out of the way to f4, and the pawn advanced again to e3. So you can appreciate just how powerful these pawns are. Ask yourself this question. How about the next time you play a game of chess that you try to communicate with your pieces? And what I mean by that is pretend they could actually talk. Now, don't laugh. I've read in some Grandmaster articles and books that they recommend talk to your pieces. What would they say to you? This blob here, this three-headed space creature, ask this knight up here on B1 how it feels about these pawns. You'll see that it's completely out of the game. As a matter of fact, the only thing he could do, Harry, was put the knight on A3, and that was the move that was played in the game. And again, if you were looking at this position, you could advance this pawn, or you could talk to your pieces. Again, I mean, talk to the pawn. The pawn's going to say, hey, I can push. You could also say, I don't have to push just yet, because this pawn is useful. This bishop can't get back into its own camp. I'm covering these beautiful squares. The knight is completely shut out. You'll notice it can't even come to b5 because the queen will take. The knight is guarding the center. Possibly it could come and offer to make a trade over here, but there was no rush. So who do you need to talk to? Maybe the king? I think he feels safe enough. I don't know that you want to put him on b8. Maybe there'd be some back rank issue here, keeping in mind that white has two rooks, two heavy pieces that could checkmate back here. And being there's a dark squared bishop, I don't know, I think the king, if he got checked, would probably do just well, fine here. There's no way to attack this king. So which piece have you not used? You got it? Okay, now what would you do with it? You're talking about the h-pawn, right? Now, actually, you know what? That's actually not a bad idea, h5, h4. I was trying to make a joke, but I don't know. h5 is probably a pretty good move. But in the game, he played rook e8, very strong, because he's interested in mobilizing or pushing or moving this trio of pawns. Okay, white did the same thing. He said, well, how can I improve a piece? And played rook a to e1, but it didn't stop the push of this pawn. That pawn move not only hits the rook, but it takes advantage of the fact that after rook f2, which is the move played in the game, there's an opening of that diagonal. And I think what Harry missed after rook f2 is that Daniel's going to play d3 to support that pawn. And they traded a pair of pawns, so now the three-headed monster is only down to 2. The problem here is it's doing so much. I mean, what is that worth to you? Look at the power of those pawns. Again, the knight completely shut out of play. Bishop to d2 is played to try to slow the pawns up. So I like his idea, but there comes a point in games when you ask yourself, okay, I have this terrific position. There has to be something here, but I don't see that knockout blow, that move that just wins the game. Well, you can take advantage of a few things. One, don't think of going after the knight unless you could trap it. The bishop is not going anywhere. Do you notice anything funny about these rooks or how everything here is connected? I mean, you know, make patterns in your mind. You see how I just kind of messed around and created all these dark squares? That's just an idea, right? Well, what if I leave this one on and add this one? What do you notice about that pattern? They're on the same diagonal. Well, use your bishop. You don't have a bishop. How about queen c5? Very strong move. You could say, well, it's just a pin. It is. The problem here, though, is that pin is deadly because the queen stops the rook from moving. How do you break the pin? I remember some folks, even the kids in class, who had seen this position go, well, you could break the pin easily. Just bother the queen. You know, you could play rook c1. That'll work. Well, not really, because I think I can just take that. Check. What do you do? Thanks for the rook. If you take me back, I'm just going to queen. Put another queen on the board. Check. And not good. All right? So you guys see that little variation. So if you let this position sink, think, not sink. If you think about the board, it's funny. I had a coach who had an accent. I forgot where he was from. He used to tell his kids all the time, "You have to sink. You have to sink." And I think he was trying to tell them you have to think, but they kept losing. I think because he was telling them to sink, not think. But anyway, you guys think in this position. What a gorgeous pin. So knight b1 was played. What are you taught to do to pin pieces? Attack them again. Rook f8. Can't defend it. You can block. You can play bishop f4, but now we just go after the bishop. Knight e5. The next move is knight g6 if we get the chance, right? We're going to come to g6. So after knight e5, Harry's thinking, wow, this is not pretty. I can't take the knight. If I take the knight, it's mate in two. Do you see it? Just queen takes f2, and then checkmate on the next move. I want you to do that in your head. So he just makes an escape square for his king, and then sure enough, the knight goes to g6. Out comes the knight to c3. So at least the knight went from a3, it got to a reasonable square, but it's too late. Off come the bishop, take back, and now simply rook takes f4. And in this position, I remembered Harry resigning. You can stall for a moment. You can play knight e4, but we'll just take that, and you really can't stop me from coming back here. You know, you're in a whole lot of trouble. Plus, this pawn is getting ready to go. I don't want to show you the rest. I'll have nightmares. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. It was just a quick little video of how to attack when you have an advantage, okay? So the answer to that question was do not take the bishop because you're going to lose your queen for the rook and bishop, of course. But this position, combined with the fact that your pieces up here are not working, and you have to face that three-headed beast, was not good for white. Okay, Grandmaster, see you on Sunday.